Welcome everybody to Dapple Productions, where we are hosting something special tonight. We are hosting the official Belgian Splatoon 3 championship for Belgium, for Nintendo. As I lost my word Nintendo there, we are hosting the Belgium champs for the European Championship for Splatoon 3. Of course, right here on the Productions. Nintendo super kindly to have us host this game. My name is Het. I was also the commentator for the Dutch champs, for those who have watched that live on Twitch or at Dutch Comic Con. I will be casting the Belgian champs as well, and I am joined here tonight by Chili Boy. Chili, how are you? And what do you think of tonight's game? Look at this official competitive set between overtime three-time Belgian champions looking for that fourth title, and their rivals Land of Tomorrow, who are looking to snag away the title from Robert.
I'm very, very good, my friend. Thank you for having me. Thank you to everyone in chat for joining us. Really, really excited to see the best of the Belgian talent firsthand. And we've got two incredible pickup teams here, and names I recognise from giving me a very hard time in a solo queue, and also just being, very, very well-known players in the scene. I understand Robert, who plays for Overtime, is actually undefeated in Belgian finals, you said earlier, which is quite the feat to be boasting about. But yeah, really looking forward to seeing what these two teams bring to the table. Really interesting kind of map list that we're going to be working with as well. So we're going to see kind of the team talents across all of the modes that Splatoon has to offer. So yeah, expecting it to be a very fun time, expecting it to be chaotic in the best way possible, which we know Splatoon is so good at giving us.
Yeah, I'll give a good reference for the Dutch Championship, because I feel like Belgium and Dutch players are quite comparable. The Dutch Championship is actually a very, very close set, so hopefully Belgian champs will be the same. Now, to start it off, I guess everyone was wondering at this, who haven't seen any other national championships, and they're like, why are there 3 games of Turf War? Which is going to be funny. It will be a best of 7 total, but the 3 Turf War games is also a sort of best of 3, so the best of 3 Turf War will count as 1 point for the best of 7, and all the other games will be, of course, ranked mode. It's just done because of a lot of people who are not playing super high level will also have something that they understand, because, you know, competitive top level Splatoon ranked game modes can be super chaotic and be super fast, and I've heard a lot of people always ask, okay, but where's Turf War, because I don't understand the ranked modes. And I really feel like this, to me, is a very well balanced option, not 3 games of Turf War, or after you have to play like in the tower control and Splat zones, and then you play Turf War again, which for players is very frustrating. So I feel like this is a very, very good way of implementing Turf War in a tournament like this. And we're going to start it off on Turf War Museum del Alfonsino, which is just a Splatoon 1 map, and it is a massive, massive, massive map. Every other national played these map modes as well. Dutch champs are exactly the same, so that's good. We're gonna get the reference. And Turf War mainly for these teams is to get to know each other and sort of, you know, seek out like, oh, what is this player gonna do? Where is this player often try to be at? So you kind of get a feel for each other before they go into the actual ranked game modes. But of course, you still have to give everything, because this best of 3 Turf War will still count for 1 of your points for the best of 7. Which I think is very interesting here, Chili. Now, you know a lot about these players. Why don't you give us some information on, you said Overtime, you know them very well, especially Robbo, who is that crazy, crazy brush player.
Yeah, I do, mainly from getting, having a hard time in kind of solo queue against a number of them. But yes, so in terms of players on Overtime, there is Robert, who we've spoken about. Robert's been on every team that has won previous Belgium finals, so that speaks to their kind of consistency and talent. They're a brush main, which is quite a polarizing weapon, but one that they use incredibly effectively. So if you're interested in competitive brush gameplay, that is a player to watch. Noah, very, very good frontliner, uses weapons like splatter shots and Splasher-matic, expecting them to be constantly kind of in the fray, constantly going for splats. Flo, I believe, is a blaster main, and I first became familiar with them because they became quite well known for using Clash Blaster in solo queue and getting incredibly high in X rank with a weapon that's generally considered a slightly harder weapon to do well with in solo queue, so that speaks to their kind of fundamentals, but they are generally a blaster main, I believe, although they do have other options like a sloshing machine they play very well as well. And then I do believe their remaining player is more of a kind of anchor backline Momet, who is very experienced in playing in various pickups and often brings a lot to the table. So yeah, over time, very familiar players, very, very talented. But Land of Tomorrow, they've made it there to face them. That's no easy feat either, so I'm sure they're comprised of a lot of talent as well. Can you tell us a bit more about any Land of Tomorrow, Hat?
Ooh, let me get up my list of players. I know Jamil is actually a friend of mine who is a Splatling player, and every time I play against Rio, I'm like, oh, go away, don't move your Splatling away from me. I don't like playing it. And the other three, I don't know much about potentially Arno or Sneaky actually.
I think a Sneaky Flex is anything.
I mean, don't we all at this point?
Very, very true.
I do get word that these teams are ready, and we are going to join our first game in a second. It will be again Turf War on Museum Alfonsino. The best of Team Turf War will again count for only one of the points for this best of 7. So this can be up to 3 games of Turf War before one team scores a single point in this tournament, and after that it will just be the ranked mode. So we'll probably, for the people who aren't playing super competitive. Also, if you are playing competitive and you have to stream, please send this to your non-competitive friends. Maybe you get them interested. Don't want to advertise Dapple here specifically, but this, I think, a national championship like this is very good for people to learn how tournaments work, because I will help and explain a lot of stuff here whilst we play these games. And I'm waiting for us to get sent into the match. Again, Turf War Museum Alfonsino. Just to have these teams seek out a little bit of information on each other, though. Museum is interesting for that, Julie, I think, because Museum, compared to the other 2 maps here, is massive.
It is indeed, and it's not only massive, but also there's areas of the map that are really hard to reach. Like, you're going to need to get a good numbers advantage or a good number of splats to even really entertain getting into enemy territory, which I think will make for some interesting engagements and make for quite coordinated gameplay. The nature of Turf War as well, meaning the objective is literally the entire map. So that massive map you're talking about, the team are going to have to get into every nook and cranny to really make the most of it. But I totally agree with what you were saying, Hat, as well, about the competitive scene and being able to watch sets like this in an educational way to learn more about the game. A lot of my experience in competitive in Splatoon 1, I learned just as much from reviewing matches and seeing live matches as I did from actually playing. So as we're going into it here, we can see overtime we've got the reflex going out with the good old Tenta missiles and a double front line with the splash and the try, and then Robe using the new Nova as well, which is notorious for the multiple inkjets it can get very, very quickly.
Yeah, those inkjets are a menace to play against. I mean, Robe already is a top player in Splatoon 2 and now in Splatoon 3 especially, whilst playing burst, but we see him play shooters as well occasionally if the burst isn't very suitable. And I feel like in Turf War, I'm seeing the burst is the most suitable weapon in the world to play. It actually comes out quickly for Land of Tomorrow, and now these teams are fighting for the middle. It's interesting, which I also noticed, is a lot of these teams don't actually quickly feint their spawn. They leave the spawn unpainted for a long time. If you don't know why this is doing it, it's a question which you're also asking me in the Dutch Championship. Do you leave the spawn open in Turf War in competitive, and or at least unpainted until you die, so you can get the special by quickly? If you paint it all the way in the beginning, you have a lot less special that you can try. There's also people split their left and right, meaning that they will not finish the spawn to get this quick special, but it's now sort of damage control until the last minute mark, where you have to fight with the special, and then the last few seconds are what Turf War is about. Because whoever can claim the middle of the map in Turf War whilst keeping their base defended will guaranteed win that Turf War.
Absolutely, and I guess the other element of leaving the spawn not as painted at the beginning is because you are going to get splatted, no doubt, in a 3-minute match, and you get to kind of cover that ground as you're respawning, getting into the game as well, and then not having to waste as much time. You're being much more efficient with covering different areas of the map to then get back into the mid where all the action is happening. As you can see right now, a lot of people hiding around the kind of spherical platform, doing what they can. The grab tanks raging war with everyone else's specials and sub-weapons, but yeah, real skirmish going on. We're nearly 2 minutes in, and it's still a very, very even game in the center of the map right now, it looks like.
Yeah, the center of the map, that's an interesting point to hold in this game, because center of the map is a very good place where you can get consistent special, but you also have to defend it, because the middle of the map is your entry to your base in Turf War, as most of the flank routes are always disabled on Turf War that you have on the ranked game mode. And the last minute has kicked in, and this is what it's all about for these teams, and it looks like overtime is definitely heading deep into the base of Land of Tomorrow. That's what we want to see, 2 players down of Land of Tomorrow, only 1 player down of overtime. That's very good. Robbo though nowhere near their special. They need to have that Inkjet to have a very strong defense. So Tactical from Sneaky is at the ready, but being harassed by the missiles of the reflux is going to be super annoying. Tactical is out and activated. Everyone will grab it quickly, but they have to push all the way to the middle to get some turf back. And with that crab tank from Noah, it's going to make it very difficult for Land of Tomorrow, who are pushed back heavily by overtime. Robbo on that Inkjet gets 1 splat. That means again 2 players down for Land of Tomorrow, and with 12 seconds left, it doesn't look like they can do a whole lot. Everything will still change though, but another cooler for overtime is going to make that very unlikely. A Spongy uses the crab tank, but 2 players go down again, and that will seal the game for overtime. And we'll be looking at the first point of tonight's tournament. However, it is still in the turf for best of 3, meaning it's only halfway until their first actual point in best of 7, which I still believe is stupid confusing, but hey, that's how we are.
We will keep clarifying it as we go along, so that everyone stays in the loop and isn't confused. Don't worry there. But yeah, overtime very nicely done. Of course, the last minute of turf war absolutely crucial. You cannot afford to go a number of players down in that last minute just because you have such limited time to recover and regain control. And Land of Tomorrow had the right idea, trying to use the tactical to prepare for a coordinated push, and of course the tactical are great for those more risky engagements, because if you do trade, you come out on top, you respawn so much quicker than your opponent. But that crab tank just being beautifully placed on the center pillar, absolutely flooding ink down, made it incredibly unsafe for Land of Tomorrow to be able to pick up the tactical, the drinks, and unfortunately getting splatted, losing control of their platform, as you pointed out, Hat, and sealing the deal for overtime there. But we're going to Scorch Gorge next, which I know is a map that can sometimes polarize people in terms of opinions. Do you expect to see any major changes here?
I do expect Robert probably switching back to the brush. I think the Nova isn't as strong here. Inkjet is reasonably strong, with that brush it's just so easy to get into the spawn, you know, as a brush. So I feel like a brush is a very decent weapon to play here, though of course I can still select a Nova. The reflux though, that's going to be something super annoying for Land of Tomorrow, because I have to deal with missiles, but I have to deal with missiles on a lot of different height levels, because this level has a lot of height variation. Though it will be a little bit of a bigger fight on the middle, because it is a little bit easier to defend your spawn on this map than it is on Museum Alfonsino, because your spawn isn't a corner where you sort of have to go around awkwardly around the corner before you can actually do something. So I feel like there are not going to be a lot of major changes for these teams. It looks like overtime stayed the exact same. Land of Tomorrow did switch it up a little bit, I believe, and now no, they did not switch it up. So these teams do stay exactly the same, which is maybe a little bit surprising. I did expect a little bit more range coming out of Land of Tomorrow to counter all the short range from overtime, but I guess they stick with what they learned. A very early tactical for overtime is going to make this first opening fight very interesting, but it looks like Land of Tomorrow actually is doing more damage on the middle than overtime is. But overtime can of course play it a little bit more passive, taking 2 early splats here for Land of Tomorrow, and I think this will be the turning point on the center.
Yeah, Land of Tomorrow came out swinging there, but that was also a good showcase of flow. They did lose that engagement because they were tactical the boosted. They respawned almost immediately and shrugged that off. Reflux there getting a splat, which we don't see as often on a support weapon, but doing the job. And like you say, Hat, with this map, the point of contention is going to be that giant heightened pillar in the middle and the Greats area, because if you get control of that top area, you can absolutely just flood ink across the map and limit your opponent's movement options. So right now, looks a relatively even engagement. Land of Tomorrow trying to whip out the Inkjet and being penalized there by the Tenta missiles. Momet doing their job to support their team beautifully there.
I feel like it's interesting if you use the Inkjet gets split up by 10 missiles. It just directly hits your head while it's in midair. It doesn't even land, it just hits you in midair, which I believe does actually instantly get you splattered, so that's interesting. It looks like overtime again doing a lot of damage onto the center point. Their grab tank though is going to help a lot from Noah to reclaim the middle. There's Jamil on the ball, but like I said, 3 players were down for overtime, meaning this map is going to switch right around from yellow to purple. Robbo with that Inkjet have to fight Jamil now, and as they land, there is no way you can survive against that ballpoint. It does too much damage way too fast. And now Jamil can set up on the center point and with no real long-range option for overtime, it's actually going to be a struggle to get Jamil out of there. He also has that Inkjet at the ready, and he looks at 2 players to get Inkjet on Flo and Noah to be exact. And now Jamil has to be ready, but no, gets splattered unfortunately. And here Chile in the last minute kicking in. It starts to heat up as overtime keeps getting back in that center corner.
Yeah, Jamil was doing a beautiful showcase there of taking that high ground with a long-range weapon and no part of the map really feeling safe. But now Mome has control up here and has just been flooding the reflex, of course, being a weapon known for painting incredibly well. Able to cover a lot of the map very, very quickly and then use the Penta missiles to force people into a very challenging position. You can see that Noah has made it over the grates and was in Land of Tomorrow territory there, choosing to take a step back rather than getting splatted, which is crucial as we go into the last 30 seconds. That was a beautiful inkjet pit on the reef, but being responded to in kind by Flo. Very good response and backup from their teammates there. And Punchy trying to wreak havoc on the grab tank, but getting knocked out there by a duo attack from overtime, it looks like. So it's looking pretty scrappy and pretty messy here. We're in the last 5 seconds. The map's looking relatively even. I'm not sure who has that actually, Hat.
Yeah, me neither. I like the big splash into the spawn of overtime at the end. It looks like it will be Land of Tomorrow who wins it, but no!
Oh,
no,
wow.
With a very small percentage, it will be overtime. Because of the little on the mic thing, it actually see the full percentage. It looks like it was around 0.5 or 6% difference. Very, very interesting. Super close indeed. But that means that overtime has scored the first point in this best of 7 as they won the best of 3 turf war. So maybe to our lovely streamer Toshi, who is doing all the background work tonight. Shout out to Toshi for hosting our stream tonight. Maybe change it up for like 1 turf war icon with a crown. Yeah, exactly like this. Nice. Cool. Now people understand. The turf war best of 3 was won by overtime. We don't have to look at it anymore. Now we are going into the real deal. We will be going to tower control, which for the Belgian people who play in Dutch is Toren Twist. And I will give you a little explanation about tower control for those who don't know. There is this tower on the center. I mean, kind of makes sense. It's tower control. And you have to stand on it to control the tower. That makes a little bit of sense to me. If you are on the tower, you have to have one of your team players on top of the tower, on the side, on the top. It moves towards the enemy base on a set path. In between that route, there are some checkpoints. On the checkpoint, it stands still, and you still get points, but it is stationary. As long as you're on it, you get points. It's stationary until the timer goes down. If the checkpoint is completed, you can go forward again. Once you clear the checkpoint and you lose the tower, go back to the center and you go back on the tower. You don't have to clear that checkpoint again. And the goal is to get the tower as far as possible into the enemy base. And if you reach the final point, you'll instantly win as a KO, which is a very, very rough explanation on tower control. But why do we explain it? As we're going right here into the action. Overtime looking at a very good start as they won the first set already, and now looking at a 1-0 lead, which for the mental game is actually very strong. Massive changes on these teams, so Robert going back to their legendary burst, Noah switching up to a Splat named Mohamed, having a tri-slusher Nouveau now, and Fleu with the normal slusher, Sneaky with a slusher Nouveau, Punchy still on the splatter, on the splashmatic, and the last one of Flounder using a Splat 52 Gal Sneaky, which of course is a very, very strong weapon. Let's see how these teams are going to fight it. In the opening fight here, of course, it is Flounder Hive. It's a very annoying map to fight against. It's a map between 1. People praise it for being amazing. I definitely do not praise it. As 2 players off, then tomorrow go down, and overtime is the first team to capture that zone. Wavemaker quickly comes out to secure that area alongside a tri-strike to quickly clear checkpoint 1, and this is good for overtime as the first checkpoint is kind of annoying to clear. The second checkpoint is going to be even worse, but looking at how much damage they're doing, Fleu getting a nice triple splat there. This looks like a cakewalk, but like the Dutch Championship, this first push for overtime went far, and then somehow tomorrow, if the World Dutch Championship is taking it back, so maybe we get a repeat here of the Dutch Championship.
Yeah, Flo absolutely aware they were on camera there. That was an absolutely gorgeous triple that's allowed overtime to make a lot of progress. As you were describing, Hat, with tower control, the objective moving slower and actually coming completely stagnant in certain places makes it very challenging to progress past the checkpoint in one go. It's quite rare you see a 100-0 push, but Overtime doing absolutely incredible here. They are up to their final checkpoint already, and that is 3 of Land of Tomorrow down. So we could be looking at a really quick tower control game here, which you don't often see.
No, you do not indeed, but overtime is not letting go of that tower. Robber staying on, somehow defends all that shooting from Land of Tomorrow, and that's a very quick 100-0 for overtime. Not a single point scored for Land of Tomorrow. I want to say Flo, definitely the strongest player right there. Gonna get nice triple splat and giving up their life to be even more powerful. Everyone rocking that robot armor or that little samurai kind of outfit. But that's a very, very strong start for overtime, as they are already 2-0 in a tournament, halfway to victory. Of course, everything can change. Everything can change. We saw it in Dutch Champs as well, where it was a very close game. And now we're going to Inkblot Art Academy Splat Zones, a well-practiced Splatoon 2 map. And Splatoon 2 actually turned 6 years old.
Happy birthday, Splatoon 2. I've got far more playtime hours in that game than I care to admit on a live stream. But yeah, absolutely incredible game. And Inkblot, as you say, a map that both teams are likely to be very, very familiar with if they're Splatoon veterans in the scene, which all of these players are. Also going from tower control being a moving objective that has various checkpoints to splat zones, which is a completely static objective. Your goal, of course, being able to hold the zone, very often the central area of the map. Much easier said than done. Your opposing team will be doing everything to get splats on you to make it really, really hard for you to control that central space. Your job is to do everything you can to hold that zone for the extended timer. If your opposing team manages to retake the zone, you get a points penalty added to your score. So often a lot of back and forth action again. And Inkblot as a zone, relatively small zone, I would say, in the grand scheme of things, but good movement options from the sides in terms of being able to come in and try and sneak your way into making an aggressive play. So I'm really interested in seeing what Land of Tomorrow try and do to respond to overtime here. Overtime are looking very, very scary right now, but Land of Tomorrow in that second turf war game did win a lot of engagement, so they've proven they can do it. They can get splats on overtime, but it's just trying to deal with overtime's coordinated special use, which they use so beautifully on that tower control game.
They do indeed. It's also a little bit easier, I feel like, to defend and regroup in this map that is on Flounder height, just because you don't have to fight against the high ground. You kind of fight against the lower ground when you're attacking. This is a very good thing. Jamil also going to have a very, very fun time in that central point, because he's the only person who has a lot of range in these two teams. The only big counter to him is Fleu with the Slusher, maybe Mohammed with that Nova. Other than that, Robert and Noah have nothing to say against the ballpoint battling, as we do see the Inkjet coming out quite early from Mohammed, but they get splatted though. So does Arno, I believe, with Punchy with that Splashmatic. Overtime is the first to capture the zone. Splashers coming out left and right from overtime in a desperate attempt to reclaim some ground, reclaim some players. Noah though gets snagged by Sneaky. Sneaky loses the fight, unfortunately, as Fleu came to help. Jamil gets his refrag on Noah though. 2 players down for overtime, only 1 player down for Land of Tomorrow. Land of Tomorrow is looking at pushing in a capturing zone and neutralize, but now they still have to cap it, as they do in a very, very nice attacking order. And with overtime pushed it all the way to 59. It is a very, very good opening lead. But let's see how Land of Tomorrow is going to hold it now. Jamil can stand in that center, but no! An ink strike says no against that.
Yeah, very, very good start by overtime, but Land of Tomorrow looking much stronger in response there, managing to get a counter cap of their own, which meant overtime score was ultimately 92 ticks still to go if you factor the penalty in. Very interesting with the compositions there, like you said, Hat, with Jamil being on the ball point, definitely by far the strongest range in the teams. And even though the Anarchy Nova has good range, it is not the best weapon for firefighting. It is considered more of a support weapon, as it takes a 5 hits to splat opponents, but it is very, very good at holding map control, and you need to hold the map for this objective, which is something it does very, very well. So overtime here, extending their lead. They have lost 2 players now, so this is Land of Tomorrow's best time to cap. They do manage to do it. They lose 2 players themselves, but they are now on the board, doing everything they can. Jamil to dodge and survive like crab tank. They do manage to do so, but then choose to jump back to safety.
How good that jump was, especially when the teammates came back to support Jamil. Now just to go all the way back to the middle, and they almost lost that zone. Punchy also opting to jump back, I think being in a flank, I feel a little more reasonable. Maybe jump to a teammate, maybe to jump to me would have been a little faster. Sneaky using the second cooler to gain a small advantage in terms of there's a movement buff against that of a robot quite quickly. Moment now coming out in the Inkjet fight against Jamil. None of those players are looking at each other interesting though. We see Noah coming out with those tri-strikes, or sorry, Fleu with those tri-strikes, trying to do some damage. 2 players down, actually late, 3 players down, 4 then of tomorrow. Overtime also got rid of their penalty. Again, 3 players down, 4 then of tomorrow. They have to go in and regroup quickly to get that zone because the timer is just going down and down and down. For overtime, only 20 ticks remaining for overtime to get another KO. That's not what Left Tomorrow wants. They are going in. The Killer Will 5-1 is activated. It looks like Jamil's about to use a splash as well. That Inkjet is out on the field. Can they stop it in time? And no, they cannot, as overtime ups the only paint and ignore everyone else from Land of Tomorrow, giving them a commanding 3-0 lead this early in the tournament. It is match points for overtime. And Land of Tomorrow now have to reverse sweep overtime. And I'm going to be honest here, that's no mean feat if you're going to do that.
No, that is an absolutely terrifying prospect for a team to do. And I think overtime there just showing beautifully how once you get that numbers advantage, once you get good control of the map, not just staying in mid, they've moved up as a collective onto Land of Tomorrow's platform and just made it so hard for the team to regroup. Of course, it can be really easy to panic in that situation, especially when the time is ticking down. But I think Land of Tomorrow were trying to build their specials up for a coordinated push. But like you say, with that little amount of time left on the clock, they had to make a move. They probably had to push in more quickly than they wanted to offensively. And overtime were aware of that and just then moved back and focused on the objective. Players might be wondering why a couple of Land of Tomorrow's players jumped out a little bit earlier, and that is often done if people feel they're in a threatening position where they could get splatted in order to conserve their special so that they can then use the special for a retake and a push. So I think Land of Tomorrow had the right ideas in some places, but just struggled a little bit of the execution. Overtime, as soon as they get a bit of map control, they're so scary, they're so offensive, and they're so synergized, and it was just a bit too much for Land of Tomorrow on that occasion. Hat, remind me how we say Rainmaker here, because the fact you gave me earlier was brilliant.
Yeah, Rainmaker in Dutch and I guess Flemish is bazookarper, which kind of translates to bazooka on a carper. Carper is a type of fish, for those who don't know their fish lore. And I do believe, and I genuinely believe, that bazookarper is a better name for Rainmaker than Rainmaker, because bazookarper makes more sense, because you are literally wearing a giant golden carper with a bazooka on it, which just splats stuff. So personally, I feel like they should, change it in every single region to bazookarper, because Rainmaker, it just makes no sense about what the mode is. We're going to Rainmaker on certain Shipyard, though also a well-practiced Splatoon 2 map. We've barely seen Splatoon 3 game players. Every single map so far, apart from Scorch, Gorge, has been Splatoon 1 or 2. Barely any Splatoon 3 other than the Scorch Gorge. Let's see how the teams are going to go. Overtime in a sick match point to win their Belgium national tournament. Land of Tomorrow having to reverse sweep. It can still happen. We saw reverse sweeps earlier on Dapple Productions. We've been seeing it Splatoon again and again, but it's going to be difficult as overtime pops the Rainmaker first. But Robber goes down quite early to Punchy. Ardo goes down to Fleu, I believe, and now it's a 3v3 battle in the center. But Noah and Mohammed are pushed back quite heavily as Flo goes down. This is a moment of opportunity for Land of Tomorrow to pick up the Rainmaker, score some good points, as Noah, in a very awkward position, gets harassed by Jamil on the Inkjet, gets splattered as well. This is the moment for Land of Tomorrow to pick up the Rainmaker, start scoring points, but they're just waiting and waiting and waiting. Sneaky finally picks it up after everyone respawns, and Rob is going for a massive flank on the bottom of the middle point, just waiting for Sneaky, but I don't know where he's gone. He hasn't done a thing there. Finally goes in a little bit on the late side, I feel like. Does survive and doesn't get a single splat out of it as well. Fleur goes down again. Punchy doesn't notice Robber, who's still behind. But Robber with the double team gets splatted, and it looks like neither team has really gained anything. It looks like overtime will be losing some ground here. As Land of Tomorrow will pick up the Rainmaker and probably push the checkpoint one.
Yeah, there were 3 players down at one point for overtime there, so this is Land of Tomorrow's best shot to push so far. Land of Tomorrow winning the vast majority of engagement since this match started, looking a lot stronger on this map mode combination. They were being quite hesitant to push, as you pointed out. I wonder if that's because they were a bit unsure where some other players were. They are now going to be punished just before reaching the checkpoint, unfortunately. So on Rainmaker, you do need to dunk on the checkpoint before you can push to the main goal. And unfortunately, even though that's a really important milestone to get, Landed Tomorrow was stopped just before getting that dunk. So overtime now trying to do the same in response and being shut down. A good defensive response from Landed Tomorrow, but the Rainmaker in quite a challenging position right now. Noah doing what they can to assist with the push. Punchy bringing out the crab tank to deter people from trying to make any progress, but looks like overtime are doing what we've seen them do before, where they start to push quite deep into enemy territory and make it quite challenging. So Landed Tomorrow's hesitance and slightly passive approach at the beginning could come round to cost them here, Hat.
Yeah, it definitely would cost them a lot of points. Their overtime, though, however, haven't scored a lot of points. It's not looking good for them. They're playing a little bit safe. They're just waiting for that golden opportunity to get one single good push in. Neither team, however, has touched checkpoint 1 yet, but it looks like overtime might actually change that, as they're going in a very hard push. Tri-Strike coming out onto the checkpoint. Moment has it. Squid surges onto that checkpoint, capturing it and getting the lead by 2 points, but they're not done yet. No, definitely far from it. They use Killer Roll on the Rainmaker and the Rough Robot to pop it quickly. Killer Roll from Lentaro also activated to hopefully stop the push a little bit and do some counter damage on the Rainmaker shield. Didn't do a whole lot of damage as 2 players go down for Land of Tomorrow, but also 2 players are down for overtime, meaning Robbo has to push the Rainmaker with only the help of Mullet. Now Robbo is alone in a very awkward spot and he wants to hold it there to get their teammates back in. Fleu somehow gets in, decides to go out. Mullet goes in, wasn't able to jump out as Sneaky quickly makes work of them. It's a very competitive push from overtime, as Land of Tomorrow are now in the losing side. The Prior see overtime into the lead, and it's not looking good for them tomorrow, because if they lose this game, they're out of this tournament, meaning they get second place onto the Nationals.
Like you said as well, Hat, when you're at a deficit like this, the nerves really do kick in, and with a game like Splatoon, you have to make split-second decision after split-second decision. That being said, despite how good overtime's push was looking, they only barely hit the checkpoint. They did not make much progress after that. So Land of Tomorrow, they've got 1 minute and 20 seconds to make something happen. They're going to have to make a move soon, but they have every opportunity to do this. That is 2 players down. They have the chance now to start getting some map control, start moving. That's another player that has dropped. The tactical is up for Landed Tomorrow. They've got another splat there, beautifully done by Punchy, and they're going to camp the jump. That is 3 players down. There's only 1 left alive. They can get the Rainmaker now. This is the best chance that they've had to make progress this entire match, and it does look like they're going to get the dunk on the checkpoint here.
Very good checkpoint by Punchy, seeing the Rainmaker even at the teammates and decide, no, I got 3 people, let's go. Boost Rainmaker all the way to 56. Unfortunately, you cannot be on equal points in Splatoon 1, 2, and 3. Maybe something I personally dislike, and the equal points were a thing, but unfortunately they are not, meaning Land of Tomorrow still have to pick up the Rainmaker and score 2 more points to get it done. But everyone from overtime is defending a Rainmaker with their lives. Only 30 seconds left on the clock for Land of Tomorrow to do anything, and they're still 1 point behind. Flow goes down, but this again, the Rainmaker is in the center, and this is maybe good for Land of Tomorrow, because now they're in. Tactical is out of the field. Sneaky picked up the Rainmaker. They are so close, they have to rush it in past the checkpoint, and they have won this game. 12 seconds left, 1 player down. Sneaky looking at the opportunity, but we don't see anyone. Robert jumps on, gets a splat. Flow gets another splat. Only Arno alive to pop the Rainmaker and pick it up. They luckily do,
oh,
but a long shot at a bomb. Say no to that, as overtime wins the final game for them of the best of 7 finals with a bomb and only a single point lead to become Belgium's national champions, meaning Robbe as his 4th consecutive title in the Splatoon 2 and 3 Belgium Championship.
A very, very well-deserved flashy fist bump there from overtime at the end, but that is going to be such a heartbreaker for Landed Tomorrow. There were 3 players down, Hat, on overtime at the end of that final push, but that Hail Mary bomb did its job, just tripped up the Rainmaker carrier, and that is what was needed to end that push. Landed Tomorrow looking the strongest we've seen them in this tournament, but overtime just so scary, so consistent as a team, and that slightly more confident gameplay in progressing the objective coming through for them there. But what a heartbreaker, and what an entertaining game to end it on, even if it does tragically cut this set short.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us, and I feel like Land of Tomorrow, though, especially in those last 2 games, they put up a fight, especially in Rainmaker. That's a fight you say, oh, there, again, That was a very strong fight, and they had the moments. Unfortunately, that stuff kind of happens in Splatoon 3. And overtime, I think, was playing stronger generally than Land of Tomorrow, and that is why they are again at the 4th time going to represent Belgium in the Splatoon 3 European Championship hosted later this year in Frankfurt. But I think that will be us tonight, as we had a very quick final section. I think this has been the quickest final game we had so far. Maybe actually the first 4-0 on the Nationals.
Yeah, it's I know there's a bit of a disheartened kind of sentiment in the chat around it getting cut short early, but that's because you can never get enough Splatoon, man. We're all here for that action and that brilliant gameplay, and it would have been brilliant to see more of it. I think the nature of quite long sets as well is it does give teams time to adapt, and Landed Tomorrow, they're really showing signs of life. If they maybe could have caught that offensive confidence a little bit earlier, we could have been looking at a different story, but I think they shouldn't be disheartened. They did really well to make it to finals, and even though it's a 4-0 on paper, they did have moments where they did look quite strong and where this could have been a very different story. So I hope they're not taking the loss too hard. Lesson for everyone, just have Robert on your team if you want to win Belgian finals, because they're undefeated, just so consistent, and there's definitely some good learning from how these games went. If you're a newer player wanting to learn in the competitive scene, wanting to learn about when you make those decisions to make a push versus when you hold back. The risk reward in being kind of more patient versus taking a more risky play, bearing in mind the time, bearing in mind what specials your teammates have. There was still a lot of great action here, which is why we all love this game, why it's always a privilege to commentate and be a part of it. And tragically, that's the first finals I'm commentating, and it was over really quickly. So hopefully I'll get to do more soon, where we see a tiebreaker kind of game 7. But that was still brilliant, and yeah, both teams should still be very proud of what they've achieved.
I definitely agree with you there, Chile. I couldn't have said it better myself. These teams, of course, the top of their country, and even if Belgium is a small country, not a whole lot of Splatoon players, I feel like you still draw out the best of the best, and there's still some qualifiers you have to go through to reach this point, which also, being everything on different dates, is also a bit stressful. So I do give big congratulations for Land Tomorrow for that 2nd place, but of course, a huge congrats for overtime with their 4th title, and I cannot wait what they're going to bring at the European Championship, because I have a feeling, compared to the other years, this year will be a lot more spicy between countries than it has been previously, because everyone looking way more fired up than before. But I think with that, it's going to be the end of the Dapple Productions stream. Before we go off, Chili, where on the internet can we find you?
People can find me on Twitter at chiliboy_splat. I'm mainly just posting about hype Splatoon sets and occasionally sharing the odd British meme for people interested in UK culture, and yeah, just some general degeneracy. But do come along and say hello. It's great to get acquainted with the community, and like you're saying, Hat, as well, the community just continues to grow in numbers and in talent, and as the meta's been evolving as well, it's been brilliant to see. Where can people find you?
You can find me on @casterhead on Twitter, where I post a lot of various random stuff. I'm not super active on socials anymore, mainly because I just do a whole lot of real life stuff. But I post things from time to time. But you can mainly find me on Dapple Productions on the microphone, because that's what I'll primarily be doing as a Splatoon player. And all of that, you can also find me at _DaveV_ on Instagram, where I just post random pictures of myself and occasionally my cat. So follow me there, I guess, for those 3 people who use Instagram. And before we sign off, I was going to give a big shout out to our streamer Toshi Daru, who is helping us stream today's tournament. You can find him on Twitter and Twitch at @ToshiDaru. That is TOSHIDARU. I don't know exactly all Toshi does, but I know Toshi is a very chill guy, and he does a whole lot of other stuff. So I think that's going to be us. Thank you so much for watching. Again, congratulations to Overtime for winning the tournament. Thank you, Dapple, for hosting your stream. Of course, thank you, Nintendo, for letting us stream the Belgian official championship. And without further ado, I wish everyone a very good weekend and a very good evening.
Take care, everyone.